had a client that back in October of 2017 had gone. He's a Memphis guy. He'd gone fishing early in the morning and was done with fishing. He was on his way home, getting on to I-55, the interstate, and for some kind of unknown reason, his car stalled in the left lane, and we believe he had some malfunctions with his vehicle. It was hard to determine, but 18-wheeler was behind him carrying a oversized load, was carrying, I believe, a Traco, and just plowed right into the back of him. I mean, and according to the reports, I mean, there was no braking by the defendant prior to impacting our client, and just absolutely crushed his vehicle and him as well. He was airlifted to Regional 1 Hospital, where he was in a coma for over a month with a plethora of injuries, including a severe traumatic brain injury. And, that's when his relatives reached out to us, and that's when we took over the case and filed it soon thereafter.
Everybody we talked to, and the wall we were facing was, we've got a guy who stopped in the left-hand lane and couldn't tell his story as to why, or came almost to stop in the left lane. And as we get into this, you'll see I'm not being nitpicky about that. That's a huge difference between how the defense was trying to blame us for everything and how the reality of it. The difference between stopping and still going, is you're going to see in a few minutes, is a big deal. But nonetheless, our guy came to a near stop in the left-hand lane on a 70-mile-an-hour highway. Can't explain why, because of his injury. And everyone says, I don't care who you represent, you're not going to get a big verdict there. You're crazy. And then lastly was, we had hovering in the background, the worry with all of this, the racial tension going on in our country with the election and all these other things, regardless which side you're on. We all know the racial tensions. And the courthouse we were trying to case in that rural Mississippi town was the local voting place. So if anyone forgot there were stresses, we had a long line down the corridor of the courthouse of everybody lined up voting every day. Most of them, wearing MAGA hats. So we knew we had an uphill battle. I went into it, I am so confident in my voir dire system that I said, I'm not worried about the venue. We're going to level the playing field. I start every opening with, before we get started, on behalf of everybody here in the courtroom, I want to thank y'all for your time and your sacrifice in being here. We know you've got other things in your life. We know you're busy. We know this is asking a lot of you. But in America, we believe deeply in the ideal of justice. We go to war for it. We shed blood for it. When you say justice, we stand up tall in our seat. It's part of what makes us different than the rest of the world, is our belief in justice. But that belief becomes a reality in courtrooms like this, where people like you give of your valuable time. And on behalf of everyone in the courtroom, thank you. I didn't know in Mississippi you're not allowed to thank jurors. So thank goodness our judge cut me some slack and didn't bawl me out before I ever got started. He reminded me later, in the future, don't be thanking the juries. We don't do this here, but he let it go because he didn't think it hurt anything. So one trial lesson is, if you're not in your home court, make sure the rules are before you start running your mouth. If someone owns a vehicle, a big tractor trailer like that, or is driving it, that those kind of massive vehicles on the road must make sure they understand the basic safety rules. And those basic safety rules that apply in this case are: 1, how long does it take to stop? 2, that they must keep plenty of safe space between themselves and the vehicles in front of them. And 3, they must never barrel into a complex driving condition full speed ahead, because safety comes first. And we're going to show you that the defendant and his employer violated completely all 3 of those, and that's why we're here today. She caught out of her peripheral vision our client's car slowing way down to a stop or near stop. And it concerned her. So she looks over. She only caught the last second and a half, maybe 2 seconds. So she caught the tail end of what happened. But she says this: A, no traffic, they like. B, no hood, they don't like. C, the tractor trailer was 3 to 4 car lengths, not truck lengths, car lengths behind, which is like 40 to 60 feet, which is way too close. So they don't like that. But she said he wasn't tailgating. So they did like, that didn't add up. But, and they said she said there was nothing he could do. They loved that. And he was a hero because she thought he was going to come over and hit her. He was coming right at her across the median, and he was able to control his truck and not hit her. So he was wonderful. So you would think, oh my God, that's their star witness. We made her our star witness in opening. This is one of the things. If you've got a witness that's a mixed bag, you want to make them your witness in opening because you get to go first and you can frame it. So we were able to say to the jury in opening, and we're going to bring you a star witness who was the eyewitness to what happened. And she is going to be horrible for their case, basically, and great for ours. And here's why. One of the important distinctions is, was he stopped or moving? Well, it was a difference between some fool stopping in the left-hand lane and being totally at fault and violating the law, or somebody who was trying to slow down and safely get off the road because there was a slope off of the median, and to barrel off there at 70 miles an hour was very dangerous. You're likely to roll. He's likely to end up to oncoming traffic the other way. So he's slowing down because it's safe. Because of the slope, he needs to slow. And we know he was heading off the road because his tires were right up on the fog line. We could tell from gouge marks in the road. So he slowed and was getting off the road, which was a reasonable thing to do. And before he could get off the road, he was interrupted by being smashed from behind, which further shows the defendant was in the right-hand lane and came swinging over as opposed to following a quarter mile, because if he saw that big thing that's up on the screen there right behind him, you don't start slowing way down to near stop, just avoid the slope. You do that because you think it's okay to slow down because someone wasn't behind you until they came slingshotting over. That was our theory of the case. We made a big deal out of the slope. And we had some other pictures. You could see the slope, and there's one you can see the officer's actually got his foot up because of the slope. So this is, again, I'm on a big thing in-house with our firm about you can't be, we're prosecutors. We are prosecuting for civil justice. We're not criminal prosecutors, we're civil prosecutors. And everybody knows, ever watch a TV show, you can't prosecute until you investigate. You got to wear your investigator hat. Some people have feelings against personal injury lawsuits in general. They don't trust them. They don't like them. They think they're bad for America. They think they're bad for them. They're suspicious of them. They've read something. They've heard something. They've had a bad experience. For whatever reason, have feelings against personal injury type lawsuits. I need to know how many of you do. And then I'm going to ask you on a scale of 1 to 10 how strong those feelings against, with 10 being the most against and 1 being real mild, 5 in the middle. Now, I know this isn't an exact science. You don't have an exact number, but it'll give me some rough estimate of the depth of those feelings. And then ultimately, I'm going to come back and ask you, kind of like the pie analogy, whether in all honesty in this honor system, it may have an impact, even though you try to put it aside, that you could not assure the court you could be completely fair and impartial. Does everybody understand? That's the process. I want you to know what's coming. In this courtroom, and I knew this judge wasn't going to give me a lot of latitude in Bourdieu and a lot of time. And with COVID, time is of the essence. So don't waste time. Get down to business. Use paddles. Beg for them to use paddles, like bidding.